Hello and welcome to today's Linkability webinar. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us live today. We are going to be talking today about how to give your LinkedIn profile the X factor and talking about the new features that have been launched in the last few months and some different techniques you might not have considered for your own LinkedIn profile. Now, at the end of my presentation, which I'll begin shortly, I'll be very happy to answer questions. So please, if you have any, pop them in the comments and we will get to those towards the end. Now then, let me start by sharing with you what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be looking at the changes that there have been on LinkedIn profiles in the last 6 months. There have been more than 25 in total new features since the beginning of the year. That's an awful lot, and we won't be covering all those today simply because they don't all relate to profiles. So I'm going to be talking about the ones that do relate to profiles that are the most important for us all. We'll be looking at the profile basics. These are the things you absolutely must have on your profile if you want it to be a showstopper. And then we'll look at a couple of advanced features for people who have had their profile for a while and might want to do something more with it. I want to talk about a couple of different aspects of things that you might be able to do or that you want to do. So let's get on and get started and have a look at the 6 changes that there have been in the last 6 months. So the first of these is profile video. And this replaces cover story, which has been around for probably a year or so now. It sits in behind your profile photo. We'll talk about that and I'll show you an example of how that works and why I think you should have one. We're going to talk about the new function of adding a URL or a link to your introduction section of your profile, which I think is a great innovation. And also another new function that has just arrived and is being rolled out now called assigning skills. You can now actually attach some of your skills to the different sections of your profile, which I also think is a great idea. If you've had a career break and you want to display that in your experience section on your profile, you can now do that in an official way. And we're going to be talking a bit about newsletters. So in 2 ways, we're going to be talking a bit about how to set them up and where they go, and also the new function of adding them to your featured section, another great innovation. And finally, the other change that we're going to talk about is the adding media to providing services, which is something that I think that is useful, but perhaps also falls into the advanced category. Now, profile video. This is the new replacement for cover story. It's still up to 30 seconds long and you can still have captions. It does give you an easy way to add your captions if you've got a .srt file, which you might, for example, have downloaded from rev.com if you've used Rev to do your captions for you. Having captions is a very good idea because a lot of people can't necessarily hear a video, but they do want to know what's on it, and so it makes sense to have captions, and also for those who might be visually impaired. So the new things that are coming with profile video are the fact that you can direct message somebody from within their video, which I like, and also you yourself can see how many people have viewed your video, but you can only do that on the LinkedIn app. Now I've got a video here that I have put onto my own profile. I have recently updated it because of the new function, which you can tell if you have, because you'll be able to see purple rings around other people's profile videos or profile photos. That will tell you that you have got the function. As usual, LinkedIn doesn't let you know. You don't are unlikely to get an email that says, hey, now you can upload your new profile video. But if you go to your to anybody who's got a profile video like me and look at the circle around their photo, you'll be able to see if it's purple that you have the function too. So let's have a listen to what I've got on my profile video. Hi, I'm Lynette Johnston, the Word Wizard, ranked New Zealand's #1 LinkedIn expert. I'm also author of Linkability, 4 powerful strategies to maximize your LinkedIn success. As a thank you for dropping by my profile today, I'd like to share with you my top LinkedIn tip. Whenever you're inviting someone to connect, always send a personalized message, and I'd love to receive one from you. Right, so you can see there that what I've done with that is just give a general overview of myself and what I do. And I've given a bit of value. I've shared something that I think would be helpful for people. So if you're thinking of doing a profile video, it's a very good idea to sit down and to write yourself a short script, first of all, so that you know what you're going to say. And just remember, no more than 30 seconds long, and preferably record it in portrait mode, like you can see here, so it's long and thin, rather than the other way around. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of black space top and bottom. Something that's just arrived in the last few weeks, you may not yet have this, is adding a URL under live one at that to the introduction section of your profile. So I like this because it is live, and it means that people can just click on it and go directly to the link that you're sharing. It sits between your location and your follower number, if you have that displayed, or your connection number, if not, on your introduction section. So that's right at the top of your profile, so front and center, and can be easily seen. It can be either a URL, so that's a www link, or you can add text to it, so display text that's called, which can be up to 30 characters long. Now, at the moment, this is being rolled out to creator mode people, but I'm expecting that it will be available to everybody on a much wider basis further down the track. And you can add it in through the edit button on your introductory profile, your profile introduction. So let's have a look at that. So you can see in this bottom image here that this tells you whether you have got it. So once you've clicked on the edit button on your profile in the introduction section, if you've got it, scroll down, it's near the bottom, just sits above the media. If you've got it, it will say website in there, and once you have added it in, you will see it displayed like this. Now on mine, I've got the link display text, so you don't see the actual link itself. All you see is the text that I want you to see there. And you can see back down here on this image that there are 2 boxes. The top one is where you put your link, and the bottom one is where you put your text, if that's what you decide you want to use. Assigning skills just arrived recently as well, and I've had great fun playing with this. It's a little more complicated than it sounds, but I like the idea because you can then add the specific skills that you use in each particular role direct onto your profile. So what that means is that you can go to either your experience, your education, or your volunteering and accomplishment sections, and expect eventually to see that you can add your skills from there. However, at the moment, you can just add them from your experience section. So when you go into your experience section, if you've got that, when you open up the edit area, you'll be able to see at the bottom that it has got a section there where it says add your skills. And so you can do that from either the section, the experience section itself, or from the skills. Now, I recommend doing it from the skills section because it seemed a lot easier. And it was a lot faster to do it that way. Of course, I'd already done it the other way by the time I discovered that. But anyway, I think that's by far the better way to do it. Once you have this feature, you can experiment with it and see what's easiest for you. Now, at the moment, if you add skills to all of these sections from within your skills section, they'll only show on the experience section, and I'll show an example of how that looks in a minute. But I think that they will display on other sections further down the track. You can have quite a lot of skills, in fact, probably up to your maximum of 50, I think, from your skills section in here. But LinkedIn recommends 5. And having had a play with it, I would tend to agree. I initially added a whole load and then changed my mind because it just looked messy. And I could just see people's eyes beginning to glaze over. So I took a lot of them off in the end. And I think that's probably the better way to do that. The other thing I think about the reason for having 5 is it could have an effect on the search function. And so if you have 5 of them in there, the algorithm, it could be likely to send you more people as a result of that. So I think that this is a really good new function. So let's have a quick look. Oh, before I move on, the endorsement numbers aren't displayed when they show up in your experience section, and I quite like that idea. So here's what they look like. The top image is what they look like actually on your screen and in your profile. So you can see that in here they sit just beneath your see more button of your description and above any media you have. So if you have no media, then they will sit at the end with what people can see. So that will makes them stand out quite nicely, which I think is a good thing. And if you look at the skills section, then you can see that it has changed in how it displays now, and it now is showing whereabouts the skills are being assigned to. So this is something I think we'll see a lot more of, and I'm really liking this new function. Adding a career break is a great idea if you are an employee, a staff member, you're looking for new work, you've had some time off, and your LinkedIn profile isn't arranged chronologically. You don't want to be showing that you've had a year off without something to show for it. And so adding a career break is an ideal way to do that. These are the choices here on the slide that you can see for you to choose from. And I think that the ones that would probably work best for most of us are the professional development, potentially travel, particularly if you're doing that with family. Relocation, that's always a really positive reason to have some time off. And of course, parenting and caregiving. This is how that section displays. It puts in a little icon there, which and gives you the choice of those options to add. Now, it's treated like any other position on your profile, so you can add a description and add media as well. The function of being able to add newsletters to your featured section is something I think that is a brainwave on LinkedIn's part. And I've shown you here how that displays. You can see at the top, it says newsletter. So my newsletter is the image in the middle here. And you can see that it has the word newsletter, it has the logo of the newsletter, which I uploaded when I created it, and just says a bit about it. So if you are going to do a newsletter, then this is a very good way to display it. It's going to give you extra reach to help you increase your subscriber numbers. There's also an easy way to find it and for people to be able to see it when they go to your profile. So that access is, I think, something that's really useful. And of course, it looks good. So why would you not want to do that? And if you are doing a newsletter, that pays off in terms of your personal branding and your credibility. And the final of these changes that I want to mention here are the adding media to providing services. You can have up to 8 images on this section. Now, the providing services section, you might recall from my previous webinars, sits at the bottom of your introduction at the top of your profile, if that makes sense. And it has a number of different functions, which I'll mention in more detail in a moment or two. But adding media to it is the latest addition here. And so you can have up to 8 images. But we've found that the more you have, the smaller they become. And so we've stuck with 1 to have it nice and big. And then also it means that the title and the description of it shows better underneath it. And so if you have a providing services section, then I'm suggesting that you add media. At the moment, only images, but video will be coming because that's what they've said. So won't that be fantastic to be able to have different kinds of media in this area to make that more visual? Now let's move on to the profile basics. Now these are the things that I believe are really important to have on your profile as a minimum. We'll look at these all individually, but I think that there are several things here that are more important than others. The header, the banner, your profile photo, and your headline will be the 3 things. If I was asked to name 3 things that were the most important, those would be the ones. However, when you're setting up your LinkedIn profile for the first time, then I think that it is a really good way to be able to do this, to have your unique URL. And you claim that by going to the top right-hand side of your profile in the home screen and clicking on this Edit Public Profile button. What you want yours to do is to say just your name, if that's at all possible. I'm lucky I've got an unusual name, and so nobody else has previously claimed it. If you're in the same position, that's what you want to do. If you have a reasonably common name or something, or a name that has already been claimed, then you need to add something else. And so the kind of thing that you can add is your location. So if you're in New Zealand, you could add NZ. If you're in Australia, AU, that kind of thing, or something else that identifies you personally. You might decide you want to have your industry perhaps, or something about you that makes you stand out, that's different and allows you to have a unique URL. As I've mentioned, the banner is one of the most important issues or the most important areas of your profile. And so you want yours to be eye-catching and colourful. It's one of the first things that people will see when they visit your profile. So you want it to show people what you do. If this is something that you do a lot of, you want to add value, perhaps give something a download that people can access. Need to make sure, though, that the left-hand side of your banner is not hidden by your profile photo. And if you're looking for a way to do that, to put together a banner, then there are free templates in Canva. So let's have a look at some examples. At the top, you'll see mine, which I have got as a nice colourful company logo and company colours, so the blue and the red. And I have got the image of, or images of, my books. And also I've got a free download on my profile here, so that someone can go to my featured section. They know then that I give away stuff for free, and then that helps cement the idea that that is something that I do on a regular basis. The profile in the middle is a really funky one, which I really like because I like the colors, and it's nice and bright and it stands out, and because it's sort of more of a cartoon type banner, and with the work that the person does right across the middle, so it's very clear the different areas that they work in. And at the bottom, Coach, a client of ours in the United States, who has had a great career from law through to finance, through to coaching now. And so he's got something that shows the level that he's working at. So it's a fairly serious sort of a banner, and extremely professional. Speaking of professional, your profile photo. Now, this is so important because it follows you around LinkedIn. Everywhere you go, your photo will go too. So you need to make yours very clear who you are. You want to be close up, front and center, with a nice big smile on your face and a clear background, so it's not complicated by things that might get in the way. Power poles growing out of your head or bridges that can be seen behind you. So no travel photos, nothing that is not head and shoulders, and preferably professionally done. However, all our phones these days take really good selfies, so I'm sure you'll be able to find something to stand up against a blank wall and get the light right, smile nicely, look directly into the camera, and you'll find that the photo will come up really well. Your headline is another part of your profile that also shows up wherever you go yet. So what I'm seeing here is some examples of the profiles from my profile and from a clients of ours, where we have got them of various lengths. We are very clear on what we do, what we offer. And in my example, you can see we have got emojis. And so I have made it very clear what it is that I do in my profile, or what I do in my work rather. And that's what you need your headline to do. Somebody needs to be able to read it and go away knowing what you can offer. That way they are much more likely to connect with you or follow you and then decide whether you might be somebody that they want to work with. So making sure that you do that is a really important thing. And as you can see here, I've broken up my section. I've got quite a long headline. In fact, I think it's probably the maximum you can have. And I've got a couple of emojis in there just to break it up. On this one at the top, you can see that the emojis are not emojis to break the sections up. They are, in fact, a keyboard key. And so they're much easier to be able to access and to use. And it also means that anybody on any kind of device will be able to see those. But the important thing to take away from here, from these examples, is that they are very clear about what the person does. And if you can do that in your headline, which isn't easy, then you will have succeeded with that. A lot of people forget about the contact info section, and that's a mistake. This sits right up at the top of your profile too, and is really important. I should mention, I think, that where I'm talking about positions of profiles and showing you these images, these are all from desktop. If you are using the app to look at your LinkedIn profile and to do some of these things, you will find that the functionality is slightly different from what I'm talking about here. So this photo shows you, or the slide shows you, that you can have 3 different website URLs on your contact info section, plus a short description if you want to as well. And that's simply a matter of choosing the other button when it asks you what type of website it is, and then that brings up a box where you can add in your description. I always think it's a good idea to have a phone number so that people can contact you. I know that some people aren't so keen on this idea. I've never had any difficulty with it, however. At the bottom there, you can see an address. Now, this is something that I use a bit differently. And as I talk today, you'll hear me mentioning this in a couple of different places. I tend to think about LinkedIn a bit laterally. I don't always follow exactly what LinkedIn thinks should be done. I sometimes use things in different ways. And this is a section where I have used this in a different way. And I saw this on someone else's profile, liked it so much that I thought I'd put it onto my own. And so instead of having an address, because I don't have a public address where my clients come to, I have used a section to mention my services. And so although it sits there with an address on the top of it, with a word address above it, I think the idea that it lists the services is quite a good one. Now, not everybody will see this, of course, and not everybody will look at other parts of my profile either. So I'm a big believer in repetition where it's a good idea. And so this is one area where I have put in information again that can be found in other places. So think about this a bit laterally. The other thing you can't see on this image is the email address, and I think that's important to put in too if it's your business one. I really recommend not leaving your personal one on here because A, it doesn't look professional, and B, you don't want people finding it and being able to spam your personal email address. Your About section is one of those that is commonly understood to be really important. And while I agree with that, its importance has somewhat diminished in the sense that it's not necessarily now at the top of your profile. Your introduction section sits at the top, and then it is followed by a highlight section, which you can't see or influence, and then comes your About section. If, however, you have Content Creator turned on, it will drop to number 5, and so that's after your activity section. So you can see what I mean, that it's not quite so important perhaps as it once was. I always recommend that you write in the first person rather than the third, because you want to be personable. You want people to feel they like you, that they're getting to know you, and that you are trustworthy. Your About section needs to explain who you are, what you do, why you do it, and what makes you different. If you can cover all of those in this section, then people will go away feeling like they know you. You can also add a bit of personal information in there, something that people might not know about you or might find out about you anywhere else, if that's something that appeals to you. Something that I've seen used a lot, and is something that I do too, is add value. So instead of just talking about me, I talk a bit about my clients and what they might need. And I find that that's helpful because not only does it kind of give people a picture of what I do, but it also shows them that I'm prepared to add value and give information away and share content. And for me, that's important. I started with the banner, and now I'm moving it down into the About section where people can see that I'm happy to talk about what I do and to give them useful information. I always think the ending with a call to action and your contact details is a good idea. So if you'd like to connect, if you'd like to follow me, if you'd like to get in touch, then by all means do so, and add those in there with your most important contact details. Generally, this would be your phone, your email, and your website address. I like the idea of breaking up text or sentences with emojis and bullet lists. I think that this makes it look more visually interesting, and these days we all find it more difficult to read big, long pieces of text only. So break it up and add some emojis to give it color and a bit of life. The next section that I really like on profiles is the featured section. This is highly visual, and it sits quite high up in your profile. It allows you to have nice big thumbnails, and it can include a variety of media. So that's photos, links, posts, so that's your posts and articles from LinkedIn, videos and documents or PDFs. So this is excellent for newsletters and also for other things like ebooks. We always put events on ours. And so the featured section is something that you can change on a regular basis. Always update it to make it look really alive and interesting things happening. If you've got videos of yourself presenting, or that's part of your role, then having videos from YouTube or Vimeo in here is a really good idea. And of course, your newsletters can now be pinned to the section too. So having a really good featured section, I think, is a really excellent idea. And this is another client of ours who is a thought leader and is often in the media. We make sure that her media appearances appear on the featured section so that people can read all her articles and more about her. But we've also added a nice little video, which was part of a post in the middle there when they won a national award towards the end of last year. And on the right is a thought leadership piece where the client, Lizzie, is talking about trends in her industry. So think of the featured section as almost like your own personal newspaper, where you can, if you still read newspapers, where you can in fact put up all kinds of different information and videos and just visuals that really give your post, your profile, life and energy. The experience section pops up next on your profile, and this is an area that I have seen change a lot in the last little while. Because LinkedIn began as a recruitment job board site, people still believe that it is a place where you only put your CV, and that's all that you do with it. Well, I'm here today to say that that's not quite how LinkedIn is used anymore, and that it has developed and moved on and morphed into something quite different. It is, in fact, your own personal billboard or your own personal website, if you choose to look at it like that. So don't necessarily think of experience as jobs. It's not called jobs, it's called experience. And we all know that we get experience in life from a number of different quarters. Don't just think of this as putting your roles up there in a chronological order and talking about those or copying the content of your CV, because this is an opportunity for you to go much, much further. I recommend that you write it as if you were sitting talking to me, having a cup of coffee and telling me about the work that you have done in the past and the different roles that you've had, what you've learned, what you achieved, your milestones. Although I do recommend you keep away from the jargon that you normally see on CVs. Talk to me personally about what you really enjoyed and at the roles that you had, and think about the different ways that you might be able to express that through testimonials or the addition of media in each section of your experience. Now, if you are a business owner, I recommend that you take each of the services that you offer and you have a separate section for each. And you can see in our image on the right, that's what we've done with this client of ours, physician management services. So these are 4 of the 6 to 8 services that they offer. And we've got text, testimonials, media, and information about what they do in each of those sections right underneath all of those. And you'll find that gives people a really good idea of the breadth of services that you offer in a different kind of a way, because you can get so much more information in there. People will, you'll find your enthusiasm bubbles over for what you do, and you'll be able to add information that people really want to read and give them a really good understanding of what it is that you do and what you provide and who you help. You want to talk about your pain points here, the things that the problems that people have that you can solve. I recommend, again, like the About section, that you use a mix of text and bullet points. So don't make it really one big block of text or even just lots of little paragraphs. Break it up with some lists of things that you can offer. It might be the skills that you have, for example, or that you use in that particular role, or the services that you provide. And I like to end each section with a call to action and contact details, just like in the About section, and add media at the end as well. I also like the idea of providing value. Give away information. Don't hoard it. The more you give, the more you will get back. It's one of those fundamentals in life. And so provide value for people who are reading your profile. And if you want to see some examples or an example of how the experience section can be done, by all means, have a look at my profile. And next up is education. Now, this is a section that if you click a button, will appear at the top of your profile in the introduction section. So do make sure that you have here the most important information at the top. It could be your university education if you have tertiary qualifications, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't, however, my recommendation is that you add in some of the professional development courses that you've done. Most of us have done some kind of professional development or other, so add it in and tell us about what it is that you have done. Now, the problem with that is that unless it is by the courses that you've done for your professional development are done through a recognised training provider that have a LinkedIn schools page, you won't be able to show the logo on your profile. And if it's going to show at the top, that is a problem. But, you know, I don't know that that's insurmountable. I don't know how important it is for there to be a logo, to be fair. I choose not to have a logo on mine, and it sits at the top of my profile, and nobody has ever come to me and said, Linnea, you really shouldn't do it like that, or have you not got any kind of tertiary qualifications? Nobody has ever mentioned that in a negative context at all. So my suggestion is that you think again laterally about education, because we don't all sit and learn from classrooms. You're here today learning in a different sort of a format. So those are the kind of things that you might want to add that you've been doing that you know will help you in your roles and be able to provide, help you become a better employee, a better team member, or to be able to run your own business in a more effective way. So again, think laterally about your education. The skills section sits underneath your education, and you can have up to 50 listed here. Now, this is an image on the right of this before the skills, the assigned skills has been turned on. So this is the original way that it displays, rather than the example I showed you earlier. So you want to have your settings on that people can endorse you, because you can see the number of endorsements here that people have, well, that you've got for the different skills. And so you want people to see that you've been endorsed for a good number of times for what you do. Now, as I've mentioned, these will link to your experience, education, volunteering and accomplishments sections. And there will be some more information on this in our member site, and I'll come back and talk more about that towards the end, because I think that this is a section that's going to become more and more important. It's already tied up with the search function, and I think that the more that we use the skills section well in combination with the new assigning skills feature, then the better our profiles are going to perform. The volunteering section is a nice to have rather than a must have on your profile. I like to have it there because it shows community spirit. It shows that you give back to your community. But again, think laterally about this. It doesn't have to be current. Neither of my two volunteering roles are current, but I have done a lot of work in these areas in the past, and so I choose to include it on there because one at the top, BNI, is a worldwide organisation, and so my involvement with that for many years is important to show for me on my profile. You can see that it's attached to the logo, so if you have done some work, community work for an organisation that has a LinkedIn page, then you can hook it up to that, and that will show that there quite nicely. I think volunteering is a good idea to have if you have been doing some community work, but don't worry about it if you haven't. Recommendations. I don't believe the same is true of recommendations. I believe that recommendations are a must-have. They are really important social proof. And if you don't have any recommendations, It says a lot about you. So my view on these is you can never have too many. And a really good way to be able to get recommendations is to give recommendations. And if you do that, what will happen is people will reciprocate. Don't be afraid to ask people for recommendations, and don't think narrowly about this again either. Think about people that you may have worked with, colleagues, people you may have been at school or university with, people in your networking groups, people that are in similar industries to you that you know quite well. Just think about people who may say nice things about you and start the ball rolling by saying nice things about them. Now, if you don't have any recommendations, giving recommendations will still give you a recommendations section on your profile, and it will show up that you have given recommendations. And I think that that's a really nice thing to do. And don't forget, when you do give a recommendation, you show up on someone else's profile, and that's always a really positive thing. They recently changed how recommendations display on profiles, and now the first 3 display. And the final area of profiles that I think must-haves are accomplishments. Now, this has recently changed and is not now called this. There isn't a name for the section that is one combining them all. So I'm just going to continue calling it accomplishments, even though now it's all broken up into these different sections that you can see here on this slide. Now, there's 9 of these, and not all of those will apply to you. But if you have worked on projects, you have been involved in organizations, or you have honors or awards, then this is important to flesh out or to add as a section and to add some details to it. Of course, for someone like me who has books, I've got publications in there front and center on mine, and you can see that on those you are able to tag or link other people who have been involved in those too. So you can add a description to some sections of these accomplishments, and you can have links in some of them as well. And so it allows you, as I say, to mention or link to people who may be involved. So this sits right at the bottom of your profile. Each of the 9 that I showed you just here will have their own page. Once you bring those up, once you start to fill them in, they'll have their own particular page, or mini page if you like, down at the bottom of your profile. From there, I'd like to move to the advanced profile features, and that is the providing services section and content creator. So let's look at providing services first of all. This is a section that sits in the top of your profile. Well, access to it sits at the top of your profile in your introduction. When you open it, when you click on the providing services section, it opens into a whole new window and has these different areas in it. Reviews, a mini about section that's 350 characters long, and a services area, plus media and an affiliated page. So let's have a look at those. The addition of being able to have 5-star video, or 5-star reviews rather, I think is hugely important because, again, like recommendations, it's part of social proof. Now, because this section opens up into a new window, it has its own URL. And that means that you can send that URL to people as part of your marketing, if that's what you want to do. If you think they won't look at your entire LinkedIn profile, but they will look at one small section of it, this is something to send them. And so your reviews are going to be important. Now, regrettably, they sit at the bottom of the section, and I think that's unfortunate. But the more of these you have, the better. And it seems to me that the more reviews you get, the more LinkedIn will let you have. They started out by allowing only 20, but now it seems to have increased. And so you can have more reviews than that. Now, just a word of warning or a word of caution perhaps about reviews. You want the people that you invite to give you a review, and you have to invite them. They can't just do it on their own. You want them to give you a 5-star review. You do not want 4.9 or 4.8 on anything. You want a full 5 stars. And so my recommendation to you is that when you are going to request somebody review you, you ask them in advance and secure their agreement that they will give you a 5-star review. Because here's the problem. Once they have given you the review, it goes onto your profile and you cannot take it down. So please do remember to make sure that you ask people first and get them to agree that they will give you 5 stars. Otherwise, what will happen is all your numbers will just show less than 5, which I think is a bit of a disappointment. So it's important, though. It's different from recommendations, absolutely, because it sits in a slightly different place on your profile. But I do think that there is a place for these and that they are a critical part of this providing services section. When you first go to the section, people will see your about, as I say, is 350 characters long, and your services. Now, you have to choose in the services section from the list that LinkedIn provides, which unfortunately is quite narrow, but I imagine over time will become a bit wider. So you need to list up to 10 services, and this appears to help in the search function too. Your mini about section is exactly that, just a very short version of what it is that you do. The new media section, or add media, which I mentioned earlier on, is a great way to display something visual. And you can see on this image the full section of it where it has the title underneath it and a description, which I've done in bullet point form. So only images so far, and that is at the top of that slide. You can see that is just one image, but you can have up to 8. The more you have, the smaller they become, so be aware of that. The one thing that's new around all of this is affiliating your company. This might actually have been available from last year. I still don't have this yet, but it means that you can link your company page directly to your providing services section on your profile. It brings through the title, the company name, and the follower number of that particular page and the industry that it's in, plus a description there which comes through from the company page as well. So a really quite a useful thing to have, and if you go to your private providing services section, it will, if you have it available, it will be there for you to be able to use. The last section on your profile that I want to talk about today is content creator. Now, this is designed for people like me who publish content on a regular basis, and I hope that's you too. You can choose to turn this on if you wish directly from your dashboard, and it does a number of things when you do that. It changes the order of your profile. So that means that your about section drops from position number 3 to position number 5. It places more emphasis on your activity, which moves up your profile, and more of your recent posts will show when someone visits your profile. In the top section, your introduction section of your profile, it will display your follower number. And that is important, I think. If you've got a good network, you want to show that to people. If you don't have a large network and your number of followers or connections is quite small, think again about whether this is the right thing for you to be doing at the moment, because your follower number does send a message to people about you and your activity and presence on LinkedIn. It also changes your connect button to follow. Now, I can't tell you how irritating I find this, because it's not something that you can change separately. It's part and parcel of content creator. And if you have content creator turned on, the follow button is on. Now, some people only like to have people follow them. They're not really terribly worried about people connecting to them. I'm not like that. I like to connect to people, bring them into my network, and to develop relationships. That's my thing on LinkedIn. And if that's you, then this is going to make it a little bit more awkward for you, no question. But it does make it not impossible. People can still connect to you. They just have to jump through some extra hoops in order to be able to do that. The hashtags that you choose as part of your content creator setup display in your introduction section too. So those are the things, the topics that you talk about mostly. And as I said earlier, you can now have a live URL in your intro, but I do think that that's going to be something that will become more widespread further down the track. When you turn content creator on, this is how the introduction section looks. You can see in here that the link is there, that live link. You can see my follower number there, and also the hashtags of the different topics that I talk about. So that is quite different from people who don't have content creator turned on. So how do you turn it on? Where do you turn it on? You go to the dashboard on your profile page, and if you scroll down, you can see it here under resources. And in my case, you can see that that is turned on. All right, now, how do you find out more about some of the things that I have been talking about today? Well, the main place that you can find out about this and a lot more is on our members site. And as a thank you for joining us today, I'd like to offer you a free 7-day trial to have a look at all our fabulous content. We've got more than 100 pieces of content on our members site. We've got videos, we've got webinars, we've got interviews, we've got articles, PDFs and documents, you name it, you'll find it there. And I'm just about to upload later today a video about setting up a newsletter. So if that's something that you want to do, please go and have a look at our membership site. You can join for 7 days without paying any money at all and see whether it's something that you would like to do. Now, if you don't yet follow me or are not yet connected to me on LinkedIn, please go and have a look at my profile and also our company page, which you can see there on the screen. I'd love you to connect with me. Tell me that you were on the webinar today, or if you are watching the replay, please still do let me know and follow me or connect with me. And do follow our company page, our Linkability company page, because we twice a week put content in there that we don't put anywhere else that will help you with your LinkedIn profile. All right, so that is the end of our main part of our webinar today. And so what I'd like to do is to have a look and see what comments people have made and asked any questions around today. And so I'm just going to whiz over and have a look and see if I can find anything from people who they might want to answer. And just so that my team are aware, I am going to start with the starred comments. And so hello Keelan, very nice to see you, and thank you for joining us today. Now Keelan says that when she tries to add skills to her current role, it says she's reached the limit of the 50 on her profile, and that would be true, but if she removes it, she loses the endorsements from her experience section, and that, as I see it, is an issue, Keelan. And because this is so new, there are going to be some issues with some of these areas that are going to need to be sorted out over a period of time. So in the meantime, here's what I would suggest is I think that it is probably better to stick with the skills that are on your that you have been endorsed for, even though the endorsement numbers don't show in your experience section, and to use those and to link that with your skills section. Now, this is very new. I've only had it a week, and so this is just my initial assessment of it. But being able to list the skills that are most relevant to your experience or current experience, I think, is important. So another option to consider is, in fact, to create a couple of new ones, but to have some, say, 3 that are really highly endorsed, and then 2 new ones that don't have endorsements. And that way you're getting the best of both worlds. That's what I would suggest anyway with that one. Or reducing the number of skills in your section overall. That's another possibility as well. All right. Now, Jason is asking why does his photo appear under view profile, but doesn't appear when he clicks on the edit profile and URL. Does this mean no one sees my profile? No, it doesn't mean that at all. If your profile photo is showing in the normal way, in the usual place, then it's either just a glitch or it's just not showing it for some reason. I've been noticing today when I've been visiting my profile that my photo doesn't show up, and that's a bit scary, but generally when I just do a refresh of my page, it pops back up again, and I can see it where it should be. So I just think that it's really just one of those things, Jason, and I wouldn't worry about it at all. So I'm also being asked here, how do we add sections to the experience section? At the very top of your experience section, there's a plus button. And if you click on that, it will open up the opportunity for you, a new window in which you can add your new roles. And you can, from there, fill them in, add your title, the job, the company, the description, add the media, and your skills now as well, if you have got that function. So it's really easy to do. Just go to that plus button at the top of your experience section. And thanks for asking the question. Can I tell you a bit more about newsletters? I can, and I've just done a video that's in the members site, well, will be shortly, in the members site that is in fact all about how to set up a newsletter. You can set them up from your profile and from your company page, but at the moment you do need to have creator mode turned on to set them to put together a newsletter from your personal profile. Look, newsletters are an old-fashioned idea, but I still love them, and I think that they've got legs. I really do think that they're worthwhile doing. So I will make sure that there is more information about those newsletters in the member site. So please pop over to that and have a look, and hopefully we'll have that video up there by the end of the day. Now, Rose has said that she's recently started posting articles and a newsletter, but they get way fewer views than a post. And yes, that is true. I'm sorry. That's fact of life. Does it matter? No. And I'll tell you why. Because articles and newsletters build up into a library. Newsletters have their own URL, their own little page where they all display, which you can send to people if you want to show them different newsletters or previous newsletters. You can send them that URL. On your profile, people can go to your activity section and they can look under articles to see your newsletters and to see your articles. So they both sit there. There's no difference as far as looking at them is concerned. They don't have this. The newsletters don't yet have a separate tab. I hope they will do, but they don't at the moment. Rose continues by, is more substantial content worth the time creating, or should we stick to pithy posts? All right. I think the answer to that question is it depends. It depends on a number of things. It depends on the time you have available. Can you spend the time to put together good quality articles and newsletters on a regular basis? Because they do take a lot more time than those pithy posts that you've just mentioned there. And so if you are wanting to post more regularly or more frequently, then posts, you'll need to be doing posts. I recommend a variety of formats. So one day do a text post, the next a document, the next a poll, the next a video, or a combination of all of those things. The kind of things that people, that your audience would like to see and to read from you. So I do think that it's a shame that articles and newsletters don't get the same kind of numbers, but I can assure you that over time they will be found, particularly articles. They're indexed by Google and they build up into a library of really good quality content. So don't forget articles when you are putting together your content plan. All right, now let me just see, do you have to have a company page in order to post a newsletter? Jenny's asked this, and the answer is no. You can have a personal newsletter, Jenny, and you can have another one from your company page. So you can have two if you have one from one of each, but you can only have one newsletter from your personal profile. So you want to make sure that you do that really well. And we started by deciding we would wait for newsletters from company pages. And then we changed our minds. It was a very glitchy rollout. So we went back, put up a newsletter from my personal profile, which has done very well so far. So 28% of my connections have subscribed to my newsletter, which I think is a great number. It's been up only 3 weeks or so. So I think that that's really a good way to get started, to be able to produce content in a longer format that's a bit different to the other different kinds of posts that you might decide you want to do. All right, let me just have a quick check to see whether or not I have missed anything, but I don't think so. I think that we're all good with that. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for joining us live today. We do appreciate having a live audience. It's very nice that you would take time out of your busy day to be here. If you have any questions as a result of the things I've been talking about today, please do feel free to send me a direct message or just again, please have a look at our wonderful membership site and become a Linkability member, even if it's for 7 days, to have a look at our content and see whether you'd like to stay with us. We've got some really good, useful information in there, including a video about newsletters, I hope, by the end of the day. So thank you again for joining us today. Our next webinar will be on June the 16th, and we're going to be talking about company pages, and we'll have a very special guest on that one. So thanks so very much for joining us today, and we will see you on the next one.